Anachrony takes place in the far distant future of the 26th century after an explosive global apocalypse called the Day of Purgation. Most of humanity was wiped out, with no answers as to how or why. The remaining survivors found whatever shelter they could. The last independent city on Earth is called the Capital and is found near the Atlantic coast. Inside the capital is built the Three Pillars, the world's greatest supply of drinkable water. It's a highly sophisticated water purification system providing hundreds of liters of clean water per hour via pipelines all through the capital. The capital now boasts over 10,000 people that call themselves the Scion's Fellowship. Its governing body of their New Earth society is called the World Council. The World Council began sending expeditions across the outback to search for and bring back survivors and usable technology. To live in the outback, away from the capital's protection, people must have ample protection and resources. Dust clouds block the sun, radiation is high, droughts are everywhere, and unusually terrible weather is common. As the capital grew, slowly 4 factions arose with different ideologies. These 4 paths lived in relative peace for a time. Decades after the Day of Purgation, the World Council brought the paths together for the common goal of mining the surrounding mountain ranges for resources. Within the mountains were vast supplies of gold, titanium, and uranium. The mines are open to this day to all the paths without restriction, as a thank you for their contributions. The Path of Harmony, led by Patriarch Polani and Matriarch Zaida. This was the first path established in the New Earth. One of the early expeditions that were sent out came across an oasis in the wasteland, surrounded by volcanic mountain ranges and populated by new plant species and vegetation. They named this place Wellspring and became obsessed with nature. The leader recruited those from the capital tired of its authoritarian grip to join the movement. These separatists called themselves the Harmonists and left the capital with new believers to establish a society in this hidden oasis. Their ideology believes everyone is equal and humans and nature should live together. They believe Mother Earth herself appointed the 2 leaders, so their authority is unquestionable. The symbol of their path shows Talma, which is a mysterious clambering plant growing on a huge trellis dome above Wellspring. It continues to grow and expand, protecting the city and its people from the elements. They welcome death as a chance to become one with nature, as through death they return to the source of life. They are expert botanists and bioengineers. The Cedars are their special exosuits, created with titanium and Talma vines. Those who spend years training with special equipment can become cultivators, who can operate these cedars. Cultivators learn to join with Talma's vines in symbiosis, controlling them at will, meaning their exosuits are among the fastest and most efficient. The people live in a communal, socialist economy, exchanging what they are given as they please. They believe the Talma will protect them from the asteroid's impact, but are concerned for all life on the planet, so they are motivated by altruism to minimize the damage and save as many as possible. The Path of Progress. Led by librarian Cornella and patron Valerian, over 15 years after the Path of Harmony's creation, a group of intellectual savants began obsessing over old world technology recently uncovered by expeditions. The capital used this new technology of anti-gravity field generators, floating platforms, and satellite communications to continue spreading the word for people to come live in the capital. This was the beginning of the convocation, which drew larger and larger numbers of survivors to the capital. The savants used the technology to get away from the capital and constructed their own capital city, the apex of humanity. It is described as Venice of the skies. Imagine Venice reconstructed in the sky with hovering platforms and buildings, but fused with futuristic technology. The floating city hovers high in the troposphere. They use sky gondolas on cloudways, their high-speed transportation network. The path of progress attracted only the most intelligent and equally snobbish people from the capital who desired a more sophisticated lifestyle. Many people purchase and use hoverboards, cloud speeders, or the rare gargoyles, mighty exosuits that can fly on their own without use of cloudways. Basic manufacturing and agriculture has been reduced to full automation. Due to the high elevation, their scientists created a protective dome around all the platforms that keep temperature, humidity, and oxygen levels safe. They've ignored Earth and written it off as dead. So all their waste and sewage is thrown out and onto Earth below. Recruiting followers early on was difficult, as they selected only the intelligent and prideful. The population began inbreeding, causing many physical deformities. At first, surgery was used to correct these. Then, their scientists learned how to manipulate a child's DNA after inception to handcraft perfect-looking kids. This became mandatory. Their society is ruled by a political elite class called the Patrons' Court, who get to judge each person's merits and award them money depending on their contributions made to the path's progress in fields of technology, culture, and growth. The court is full of corruption, as you might imagine. The Path of Salvation, led by Shepherd Karaticus and High Sunwalker Amina. Approximately 10 years later, the capital's convocation effort brought a faith group to the capital, who called themselves the Redeemers. They began proselytizing in the capital about their newfound religion. Many survivors joined them back to their shelter, having found new faith. Their capital city, Purgatory, is found underground and used to be an underground bunker protecting early survivors of the Day of Purgation. A charismatic faith leader named Drokaton took reign over these people and refused to let anyone leave to the surface, even when the sun became visible again. He claimed the cataclysm was God's vengeance, and only the faithful were spared. Going outside was limited to the inner circle of Drokaton. They collected materials needed from the surface to maintain a society growing underground. Those who could leave are called Sunwalkers and ride on exosuits called Pilgrims. Purgatory now sprawls networks of tunnels and caverns, dimly lit by sunlight cracking through hollowed grooves in the rock. Diamonds and other gems adorn the walls for spreading light. They dress very simply like monks. Their eyesight is weak from living underground so long. Mentally and physically they are strong and have a heightened sense of smell and hearing. This path is a theocracy, following Drokaton's teachings. The current leader, Shepherd Karaticus, is a direct descendant and believed to have a connection to God. A year in this society actually lasts 6 months. Each year, they celebrate with a day of miracles. The leader stands with his inner circle and conjures water, food, and resources out of thin air in front of the people. The secret technique was passed down from Drokaton as he discovered the time-traveling abilities of Anachrony while they were excavating in the early days. The Day of Miracles is the leader's carefully planned way to show the people that he has the power to summon God's gifts and maintain control and power over the community. They believe the other paths should be converted to their faith, but believe they as true believers will be spared from the asteroid impact. The Path of Dominance. 7 years after the rise of the Path of Salvation, a large ship led by Captain Wolf and treasure hunter Samira arrived at the docks near the capital. The Atlantean is the name of the most important state-of-the-art battleship from the fleet, helping to evacuate cities during the cataclysm 300 years ago. The convocation effort brought them to the capital as well. However, this group of survivors were quite hostile and aggressive. Armed conflict and war erupted between the Atlantean and the Scions in the world capital. The capital stopped their communication efforts and battle ensued for 2 years before peace was finally brokered. Being packed full of supplies, food, and water purification systems, the battleship can last in the open ocean without docking almost forever. Early after the day of purgation, Captain Wolf decided to stay in the ocean to avoid uninhabitable shores, unbreathable air, and dust clouds blocking out the sun. The ship was mainly powered by high-tech solar panels, but as its energy needs grew, they also built nuclear and neutronium power plants. It has since become more of a floating city than a ship. Using salvage from coastal cities and boat wreckage, they kept expanding the Atlantean to allow greater numbers to populate it as the world's new cradle. Boasting an impressive bio-greenhouse called the Agricultural Hull, as well as powerful weaponry, the Atlantean is built to last the post-apocalyptic world. The path of dominance is established in a militaristic hierarchy called the Echelon, with ship ranks passing down to the next generations that also act as classes in this power-hungry vessel community. They use octopod exosuits and are feared by the other paths. They want all of humanity to assimilate to their Echelon military-ranked culture. Several years after the war ended, driven by overpopulation, differing belief systems, and the future of humanity at stake due to turmoil and civil unrest, followers of the paths decided to make an exodus to live in their own isolated cities. From then on, representatives from each path were sent to the capital once each year for a summit to have influence on the decisions made for the capital's future. Not everyone chose to follow one of these paths. Many of Scion's fellowship chose to stay in the capital for the protections and resources that it provided. However, to live in the capital is to live under the governing rule of the World Council. Those who rejected the four paths and the authority of the World Council lived as nomads. They travel the desolate earth, live in small settlements across the dangerous outback, and occasionally trade with survivors from the paths. A whole generation went by until a group of explorers ventured out to the wasteland to the site of Ground Zero of the Day of Purgation. They discovered a great supply of a new element they called neutronium. Neutronium began to be used for a variety of building projects, due to being extremely light but durable. The Path's representatives decided to commemorate the coming 300th anniversary of the Day of Purgation by ordering the World Council to construct 5 monuments in the capital. Made entirely of neutronium, the monuments were to represent each path and the World Council itself. During the anniversary celebration, which they called the Day of Reminiscence, time rifts to the future opened on the monuments. It turns out neutronium was capable of opening wormholes through time when exposed to energy. The time-traveling rifts led humanity to great growth and prosperity. Through this exposed rift in time, the people were shown a glimpse of their future, an asteroid impact devastating the Earth. They began to realize the apocalypse from the Day of Purgation was in fact a result of the very first time rift. The asteroid that hits the Earth in the future opened the first time rift in their past, causing much destruction, releasing massive energy and quantities of this neutronium element. Knowing this future impact still awaits humanity, each path prepares as best they can, using resources collected in the present and from the future via time rifts. Only one path will dominate the future as humanity's one true path. Welcome to the world of Anachrony.